In this Elden Ring video, we're going to be covering the changes for patch 1.06. This is the latest patch for Elden Ring that just came out a few hours ago. And there are some major balancing changes that I want to take you guys through, as well as some bug fixes. First up, let's get into PvP. There are a couple major changes here. The first one is that now when you invade, you're going to invade a much larger area. The good news is this should speed up the speed at which you actually get an invasion. As the population of the game goes down over time as more players quit, this can take longer and longer to get. So that should help speed that up and make that better. The downside is that if you like invading in a particular area, like you have a setup for a particular area that works really well for you, you may get, and you may invade outside of that area, and that setup may not work for that specific area. So there's trade-offs there. Overall, I think this is a very good change. Secondly, they've added a way for the White Mask quest line to allow players to complete it if they are not online by defeating a new NPC. So essentially, if you don't have multiplayer or if you don't really want to invade anyone, then you can do this. This wasn't a big deal to me because I just did 3 invasions real quick. Whether I won or lost, it just got it over with. But I can see why there are players out there who want this option so they can see all the content of Elden Ring. So I think that's probably a good change, particularly at this point in time in the game now that, most people have gotten it. Now let's get those few people who haven't been able to get it done. When it comes to balancing changes, there have been some adjustments to great swords, curved great swords, and great hammers. The main thing here is that it's reduced the time it takes for rolling to become possible after an attack. So, when you do an attack and then being able to roll, sometimes there's a slight delay because you have to finish the animation. That should be faster now. The speed of strong attacks and charged attacks is faster, which means you should be able to pull these off easier. Guard counters speed is faster. Guard counters is usually slower on these weapons, so that's an interesting change. And another interesting thing here is that they've increased the attack speed of great axes and reduced the time it takes to roll become possible after it as well. Great axes is not that popular of a weapon class in my experience. I don't see too many of our build videos people going, please do a great axe build. I do see some, but generally speaking, it's just not so popular of a class, so these changes are good. They've also increased the roll distance when players have a light equip load. This should actually be a good change in my opinion. There's currently really not a lot of benefit to going light load in my opinion. You either go medium or you just go full heavy and max as far as I can tell. Giving players an extra roll distance with light equip load actually might allow players, and I'm talking from a PvE perspective here. I won't get into the ramifications of PvP for this. I'll let you guys sort that out. But from a PvE perspective, there was not really a reason to go light equip load, and now that's going to give players a reason to do that. A couple other nice changes here are that Glintstone Pebble, the Ash of War, and Glintstone Dart have had their projectile range increase. The projectile range of these abilities was terrible. Like you didn't actually use it for the projectile, you used it for the attack after the projectile most of the time. So now they've increased the range on that, but they have also decreased the damage and stagger power of it. So there's trade-offs there. Another major change that players have been clamoring for is Bloodhound Step being nerfed. Essentially what they've done now is they've decreased the distance and iframes that you get while using it, and they've also reduced the performance if you use it continually. But they've also increased the travel distance when you have light equip load. So you can, kind of probably maintain the same travel distance, I'm going to assume, when you're at light equip load. But spamming it over and over is going to make it less effective, which is, I think, exactly what players wanted, because that is absolutely annoying. And this is obviously a PvP issue. Another change that they made is that they've shortened the interval when using Quick Step, which is kind of a similar ability, but you obviously don't go nearly as far. That's going to allow you to circle around enemies more easily. However, the performance is going to be reduced when you just spam it, and the travel distance is going to be increased with light equip load. So again, these changes are essentially making it so that players who want to play these like agile builds are rewarded for going light equip load, and it gives players a reason to go light instead of medium. And probably the most clamored for nerf besides Bloodhound's death is to Corpse Piler. This is, of course, the weapon skill for Rivers of Blood. The damage and bleed buildup of the weapon skill has been reduced when you hit with the blood attack. This is the thing that goes past the weapon. However, when you hit with the blade itself, the damage is only decreased slightly. So you're getting a whole blood buildup reduction, whether you hit with the blade or the extended range of the blood, but the damage itself is only reduced a small amount if you hit with the blade. A lot of people have been asking for a nerf for this for a very long time. We'll see how much this actually nerfs the weapon. So if you have Rivers of Blood, I suggest go checking it out and testing that out. Another thing that was also changed is Stars of Ruin. The tracking ability of the sorcery has been decreased. I know this is another spell that has been abused a lot in PvP, so that should help players who PvP to stop getting abused by this spell. When it comes to bug fixes for this patch, there are a lot, and the first one is that the Luzerne weapon, the halberd, was not piercing enemies' block when it should with some of its attacks. Not all of its attacks. Some of its attacks are supposed to pierce enemies' blocks. That has now been patched, so that should work, which is a huge improvement to that weapon. Another bug that's been patched was that there was a bug making it harder for the two-handed jump attack with Bloodhound's Fang to break enemy stances. Apparently it wasn't doing enough stance damage, so if you are using Bloodhound's Fang, this should absolutely be more effective than it was before. Another interesting bug, one that I wasn't aware of, is that the effects of Determination on Royal Knight's Resolve disappear after using parry with a dagger. It's interesting because if you're going for a parry build that then uses daggers for a critical, like if you buff your right hand, parry with your left hand, and then do a critical attack that's been buffed, you should do massive damage. But if you parry and remove that, it kind of broke that. So if you're playing like a daggers build that uses that parry, like kind of like our Black Knife Assassin build, now if you're using Royal Knight's Resolve or Determination in the right hand, it should function properly. Another huge bug that was fixed was when dual-wielding axes or great axe, there was something causing the additional effects from spells, weapon skills, and items to not be applied correctly. That could prevent an entire build from working. So if you try to dual-wield build with these weapon types and they didn't work before, you may want to try them again. Another major bug that was fixed was that incantations and HP recovery items other than the Flask of Crimson Tears were reduced in efficacy when equipping Millennia's Great Ruin. It's only supposed to affect your flask, but it was actually affecting other healing items as well, including spells. So that's now been fixed and is correctly only affecting flasks now. Another major bug that was fixed is that the Opaline Hard tier was not actually boosting physical damage negation. I didn't know this. I don't use this in hardly any of my builds. I don't think I actually use it in any of my builds. But it actually just didn't work. So that's a good thing to fix. And just beyond that, there's just some overall bug fixes with like people being able to go into certain areas they shouldn't, or visuals and behaviors that shouldn't be occurring, like during multiplayer and things like that. Also, some places on the map had incorrect hitboxes, etc. And also there are performance improvements and other bug fixes, but you get the idea. There are some major ones and then there's a bunch of minor ones. I think I've covered most of those. All in all, I think this is a fantastic patch. We'll see how the performance improves. I know the performance for me has been getting better and better over the life of this game. Let's hope that continues to be the case. But these are some good updates. I think PvP players will be happy with most of these, particularly with the Bloodhound step changes. And I think PvE players also will be happy with the light load changes because it gives them an incentive to play a light armor build. And I'll probably actually try and make some sort of light armor build moving forward because I think these are really, really good changes. What are your guys' thoughts on this patch? Did they get the things that you want? What are they missing that they should have patched that you guys wanted to see patched in this update? Let us know in the comments below.